and welcome to this week's Karma Cards. Whoa! I hope that you're having a good week. The energy is... I have no words for it. It's off the chart lately. We've been having, again, high spikes of energy. The KP was at 6 last weekend, and I literally got thrown into like a time warp situation where I could not figure out what day of the week it was. Even with my planner in front of me, it was like if I was away from a device that could tell me the time or the time of day or the day, it's just like I can't figure it out. It was so weird. It was such an intense feeling. It's gotten a little better, but my brain is just, it's like I've been thrown off a kind of internal schedule. Are you guys feeling that? Maybe it's me thing. I don't know, but I think it's actually part of whatever energetic cycle we're going through, is it can kind of throw you out of time. And I've definitely felt that this week. Also, we've got the full moon in Pisces coming up. I've been hearing a lot around it. It's happening on Saturday, September 10th. So there's a lot of energy and talk around. This is a bigger moon. This is the harvest moon coming up, which also means I'll have a new full moon limited release item coming out that day as well. I'm excited about that. But there's some big energy happening now with all these energetic spikes. The Schumann resonance has been doing some weird stuff too, where it's been literally going out of time, meaning there's these big periods of black, and it's like, what's happening there? You know, is it a tech malfunction? It could be that. Why is it that we have these big blackout periods? And this isn't the first time it's happened. It happens a lot of times. I've heard different intuitives say that when that happens, it literally means like we've been taken off one timeline, put on another. Maybe. All I know is it definitely messed with time for me. So let me know in the comments, did you feel that sort of weirdness with time? I'm still feeling it. Today's Thursday, the 8th of September, and I'm still feeling it, but I really felt it, I would say, on Monday. And that's when we started coming out of those higher geomagnetic storms, and it started to come down. In fact, I want to check right now just to see where we're at. Yep, according to the Magnetology app, we finally dropped down to a 3. That's kind of our normal range. 3 and 2 is kind of where we hang out, and you'll notice it's green when it's there, but here I'm going back in time. You see these red spikes right here? These 2 days are the days we were at a level 6, and then it kind of walks itself down. So this is our first day of being in the green, and it's really the first day where I do feel like I can kind of have a sense of time back. So much is going on. So much is happening. There is some big energy coming up this weekend, and if you want to work with me through that energy, if you want to hear more about what the cosmic current is sharing with us and the direction it's showing us that is most in alignment with energy, you should check out the Spirit Circle happening on September 10th on Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. It's easy to join. You just go to this link here. It's also in the description. You get to be there for all the information about the cosmic current, as well as the healing and release work that we do with the full moon energy, and psychic Q&A, where you can ask me any question you want and I can give you psychic information about that. So if that sounds like something that feels in alignment with you, check it out. I'd love to see you there. And I want, for this Karma Cards, I feel like the Karma Cards have been really talking to us about the release work we need to do, the letting go we need to do, the changes we need to make on an internal level. And without looking at the cards yet, I'm kind of feeling that's the same theme. It's the same theme. And I really wanted to give you something this week that was a little lighter, a little more fun, because you kind of know what you need to do. And if you're not sure, check out the last couple of Karma Cards, because it really does lay it out for you. But in the theme of healing and letting go, I wanted to do some past lives fun, because one of the things that I am really into and have added recently to the work I do is quantum healing hypnosis. And if this is new to you, if you haven't heard of that before, this is the technique of hypnosis that Dolores Cannon created. and she had been a working hypnotist for over 48 years. She's passed over on the other side now, but her work continues to be very relevant today and produces a lot of relevant information for this time period that we're going through now. A lot of information about star seeds and cosmic origins and the 3 waves of volunteers. That all comes through Dolores Cannon's work and how she got that information. So Dolores wasn't a psychic, wasn't a channel. She called herself the reporter or the researcher. And she was a hypnotist who worked with people. And it started out, as most hypnotists do, where they get into it because they want to help people overcome habits or behavioral patterns, overcome addictions, things like that. That's how she started. But through her work and over the years, and she started back in the 60s, but her work progressed. And the first thing that started coming through were past lives. And when they did start coming through, it was pretty much unheard of at the time. There was no one doing past life regression when Dolores Cannon started. So to get information about past lives was fascinating. But it kept deepening and expanding and going further to the point where she had perfected a technique where you could contact your higher self in the session and get personal information that you need. But also these contacts with the higher self are connected to collective information. And so many times information for the collective or about the collective would come through an individual. And these individuals, they weren't people who were necessarily intuitives in their own waking life. Many times they were ordinary people doing ordinary things, getting extraordinary information coming through their higher selves. So much amazing information that Dolores was able to write 19 books on different subjects that were coming through these sessions. So I'm absolutely fascinated by it. I love her work. I see so much value in it. And just this year, I started my own practitioner training for being a quantum healing hypnotist. So that's something else I want to just share with you. If you're in Washington State, now these sessions are done in person. I've had a lot of people ask me if I will be doing them online. I am still on the fence about that, as that is something that Dolores did not recommend that we do. At her, before she passed, her belief was that it's better to do it in person. Many hypnotists agree it's better to do the work in person because there are a lot of subtle things happening to someone when they're in hypnosis, and having the practitioner present with you allows the practitioner to be there at the same wavelength and catch all those details. So at this time, I am not doing these online, and I'm so sorry because I would absolutely love to offer these to people online. But if you're in Washington State or would like to come to Washington State, you can do a session with me. And if you're interested in that, I'm going to give you my email address and you can reach out to me if you would like to do a quantum healing hypnosis session, because this is where we get into personal information about what's going on with your life. So if you're in a place where you're like, I don't understand why this pattern keeps happening or why I'm experiencing this in my life, this is where these sessions are pure magic, because they can give you direct information to what it's related to. It's not a guess. You're hearing it straight from the horse's mouth, straight from your higher self's mouth about what's going on. And there's a lot of times healing is done in the session. There's spontaneous healing that happens. Also, just understanding what the messages that are trying to get to you that you're not listening to. And if you get them, everybody's getting messages. We all do it. And I've done this too. I'm so guilty of it. Like years ago, I think I've shared this before, but years ago, my higher self told me I needed to stop drinking coffee, and I was not ready to hear that. So I was like, no. Now I get it. It makes sense now. But at the time, I was really resistant, even while under hypnosis. And that's why these sessions are so freaking magical, because one, you're getting the healing, you're getting the information, and you're getting the recording. And the more you listen to it, the more you unlock the energetic behind it. I could go on and on about that. I just want to share it with you. There's also quantum healing hypnosis practitioners all over the world. So you can actually go to Dolores Cannon's website. I want to say it's Quantum Healing. I think it's QHHTofficial.com. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to look it up and edit it in and put it here so that you can go check it out. So if you can't make it to Washington, there are practitioners around you who can do this work, and it's so valuable. And it was really designed in a way where it could be one and done and not something that you have to repeat over and over again, which I think is also brilliant. So a lot of your deep questions, a lot of the things that you want answers to can be found within a session. It's amazing. So in the vein of past lives and letting things go and healing, I thought it would be fun to do a past life check-in. We can do that right now. We can find out what past life energy, and many of us have multiple past lives. Some of us have a handful, some of us have thousands. It doesn't mean anything other than some of us are travelers more than others, right? So those of you who are naturally curious and travelers might have more lives here. But we can find out what past life is sort of bubbling up towards the surface now without even having to put you under hypnosis. It's just a fun quiz. And for those who've been with me for a long time, you guys know how much I love quizzes. So let's do it. Let's do a past life quiz. Okay, so this is a simple yes or no quiz. Grab a pen and paper if you want, or just a scrap of paper, just so you can write yes or no to these questions I'm going to ask you. Now, you're going to be able to get details on your end. I'm not going to be able to give you details on this end, simply help you connect the dots by asking these questions. So we're going to find out, is there a past life that's like bubbling up towards the surface or has relevant information, holding relevant information for you right now? And this is interesting because it can, we can get one answer at a different point in time than another. So if you've done this quiz with me before, and I think I did it a few years ago, you might get new answers now. And it's worth noting. It would be interesting to find out if the answers you got here actually led to seeing the past life under hypnosis. Like, that would be super cool. But let's do this. So pen and paper, and here's your questions. Ready? Number 1, yes or no. Do you have an overwhelming urge or desire to go visit some place that you've never been before and you don't know why? For me, that's a hard one, but I want to say Greece. I have no reason in this lifetime to visit Greece, but I feel like I need to visit Greece. I love to paint pictures of Greece, and I feel very peaceful when I think about Greece. Of course, the pictures of Greece are very peaceful, at least to me. So, is Greece peaceful for everybody? I think it is, but it's really peaceful when I look at it. It's like, that looks nice. How about you? Put it in the comments. I'd love to hear. Is there a place that you want to visit? You have an overwhelming desire to visit, but you don't know why. That's question number 1. Question number 2. Are there any places you never want to visit and you don't know why? Yes or no? Follow up. What place do you never want to visit and you don't know why? Put it in the comments. I'm so curious. This one's interesting. I've actually seen the past life this one was connected to. There's another past life regression hypnotist out there, very popular, named Brian Weiss. Also very good. I did one of his sessions, and in that session, I saw a time period that I never want to visit, which is, it feels good because it's like I will never have to worry about going to that time period. But for me, it was California Gold Rush, Wild West era. Now, here's the thing. I actually have visited the ghost towns, and I want to say it's in Calico, California. If you're in California, let me know. I think it's Calico, California. or near Sacramento, somewhere, maybe Northern California. I've been there, hated it, hated it. I didn't want to go there. This was like a family vacation thing where we went through. I did not like that. I was like, please, let's get out of here. And of course, I saw the life that was connected to it, and it totally makes sense. So your aversion to something or a certain area, maybe a certain climate, and you're like, I have no reason to not like this, but I don't. There's a good chance it's connected to a previous lifetime. So drop it in the comments. Question 3, yes or no? Do you ever experience deja vu? Now, this one, I feel like this question, it could be a past life. And I don't, it's not like I am the foremost expert on deja vu. So it definitely could be connected to a past life. I've also heard a theory that deja vu can be sort of like a mile marker on your current life path, letting you know if you're on the right path. Like if you're on your right life path now, you'll get sort of deja vu moments. And most people I know that experience deja vu, it's like they've seen the scene that just happened before in their mind, right? Like they had a conversation with their spouse and it was like, can you pass me that fork? And it's like, whew, they've had that moment before where they knew what was going to happen. So when I hear about deja vu, I tend to think about it in terms of, oh, that's a mile marker, I'm on the right path. But there's also a theory, it could be connected to energy from the past life. So which one do you think? You think it's a mile marker or you think it's from the past life? I'd love to know, put it in the comments. Question number 4, yes or no? Do you love reading about certain periods of history? Which ones? I would love to know. Which period of history are you into? There's a good chance you're connected to that period of history. This one's a weird one for me to answer because the answer is kind of like, no, I'm actually not interested in history the way I know some people are. But I am interested in some of the ancient teachings that come from history. I'm very interested in that. So it's more of like the folklore and the legends and the teachings that are passed down through generations that I'm very interested in. Also, Pythagorean theorem and working with numbers, numerology, the Pythagoras being the father, I think, of numerology. That period, that information, very resonant to me. Also, Pythagoras is connected to Greece, so that makes sense. See, that's where it's all starting to come together in my mind. So what about you? Are you into history? Is there a certain type of history you're into? Or is there some type of information from the past that you feel very connected to? Write it down. Let me know in the comments and see if it's starting to connect the dots for you. 5, yes or no? Do you avoid reading about certain parts of history? Yes. This is a weird one because my husband loves watching like World War II movies. He loves that era, the information and just the history of that time is very interesting to him. I don't like it. I kind of know what I need to know. I got it, but it's a very upsetting period for me to think about. So I tend to not want to engage with it. Even though there is sort of some sort of romanticism around it. I know that, Hollywood romanticizes some of it a lot, like the soldiers or the way people were dressing or interacting, the dynamics of the time. Yeah, it's like I get it. Like, let's move on. I don't want to go there anymore. That's me. So I find that interesting. 6, yes or no? Do you ever meet new people and feel like, I feel like I've met you before? Yes. 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 I think a lot of people who are, have their third eye open, who are connecting with the higher consciousness of, being a conscious collective and, we are one, coming together, that unity consciousness. I feel like more and more people meet their soul family. So you could be meeting soul family, perhaps soul family who were important characters in the past. I mean, it's so interesting how it works because we reincarnate with our soul group often, if not regularly, at least very often. And we mix it up a lot. So sometimes we will be, intimate partners, we'll be family to one another, we will be good friends, we will be sort of acquainted through communities that we come into together. So we sort of hang out with our soul family, and that's actually very much part of moving through our spiritual growth journey. We sort of do it as a pod. That's what they show me anyway. It's like the higher we go in frequency, the bigger the pod gets. It's really interesting. It's almost like looking at an inverted pyramid in a way, where there is a one point of consciousness that, as it evolves, becomes many points of consciousness, and we're evolving and connected in this way. So there's a good chance that these people that maybe you've just met, you actually know quite well, because they're actually part of your soul group, your soul family. And you've played other roles together before, and you just kind of know when you know. There is that, that thing where that you meet someone and you just automatically know that I can trust this person, or you automatically understand that you're safe with them. And there's no rational reason to think that, other than this absolute heart beacon moment that's happening, where you're just like, I know you, I remember you, and I don't know how I do, but I do. And it's so beautiful how it's connected, because again, we don't come to this third density plane or any plane alone, right? We've got our energetic team with us, our spirit team, who's always our sort of tech support through this whole experience, but we also incarnate together in groups. We make plans on the other side, and we come together in groups, and we have in our contracts with each other, I'm going to help you activate, right? I'm going to show up at a certain time, and it's a time where maybe you've activated, and then that kicks off my activation, or I've activated and I kick off yours. We come together in these very clandestine ways. So anytime we think we're just randomly meeting someone and we've made an instant connection, is it so random? I don't know. You let me know in the comments. And question number 7, yes or no. Is there an area, a country, or a place that you strongly identify with? And if so, what is it? In my brain, I'm trying to figure out how this is different from the first question, because it feels like the first question and the last question sort of are the same, but they might be different. This one's hard for me to answer. Honestly, I'm not quite sure. Yes, okay. So it's a weird one. I had to think about it a little longer, but I got it, and it's a weird one. It's not on this planet. So every spirit circle, part of where the journey of the spirit circle takes us is into a meditation, and in that meditation we go into the night garden. The night garden, it's always sort of, it seems like it's in this beautiful moonlight. And it's always sort of like dusk for me there. It's never dark, and it's never sunlight. It's always this dusky, beautiful night garden. And I've been going there energetically ever since about 2005, 2006, right in there. And it's where I go when I need to connect deeper. And so it's very much alive for me. I can picture it. I can take people on a tour of it. I see it so clearly. And I've gone in there so many times. And so that's the place. And what's interesting is that this place that I've seen, it's something that for a long time I thought I was just pulling it out of my consciousness. Like, hey, this sounds like it would be pretty. No, it comes up a lot for people. Everybody's got something similar to that. And maybe not everybody, but it comes up a lot. It's in a lot of Dolores Cannon's books, actually, people returning to maybe an origin planet or an origin dimension that has a similar type of energy. Maybe not the same one as me, because there's a lot out there. But it's so powerful when people return there in their mind that they have a very strong emotional reaction. That's the place I identify with. So, where is it? That's the question. How about you? If you couldn't feel for a place on this planet, don't worry. Is there a place that you've gone to? Maybe in a dream. Maybe you return there in a dream. Maybe you see it in meditation. Maybe it's your happy place. Maybe it's not on this world at all. And that can make it feel even more like bittersweet, because it's a place you know that physically you can't get to right now. But if that's the case, write it down, because it's connected in a way to a past life, even if it's not so much a past life you had, but where you go in between lives, because people do that too. Did you see a connection? Is there a through line in your answers, and is it leading you in a certain direction? Because that might be a past life or your non-physical life energy sort of kind of bumping up against your consciousness saying, hi, I've got some information for you. By the way, before I forget, Mercury's also going retrograde right around the full moon. I forgot that. Maybe I just wanted to forget it, but that's part of why the energy feels so big with this full moon coming up as well. Now let's do some karma cards. All right, so if you are new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in to your beautiful intuition and feel, what do you need this week? Do you need some action related answers or some outcome related answers? And you can always choose both. And while you are choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for September 8th through the 15th. All right, so we're mixing it up a little. We've had Saturn the last few karma cards, and now we've got Aries. So we went from contemplation and really deep considering into action. There's some action that wants to be taken here. And the sign of Libra, which deals with relationships, harmonizing and balancing energy. But we've got the 8th house again. This came up last week. The 8th house of mystery and what is shared, what we share with others, shared resources. So let's see what the cards have to tell us about this week coming up. All right, spiritual action at this time. Energize relationships as a life or death issue. The focus right now is definitely on how we can connect to one another in this energy and really be there for one another right now. Realizing that it's the one thing you get to take with you, right? When it comes down to the end of this game, the one thing you get to take with you is what you created with others, because that's all there really is. I mean, if we go into the whole, this is an illusion, it's a game, we're in some kind of simulated dream type scenario. The only thing that's real with us is the other people that are here. So the focus is on remembering that, putting that as the priority right now and really getting it. Let everything else sort of move to the background for a moment and bring the relationship energy forward. Mental action at this time. Confront the beauty of getting and using power. Wow, that's an interesting statement. So look directly at the beauty of getting and using power. I think that I talk about this a little bit in my upcoming podcast. It's coming out at the same time as this karma card. So if you're listening to the Modern Mystic Soul podcast, it's the Choosing Integrity with Jody Dean episode that just came out. And if you're new to the Modern Mystic Soul podcast, you can find that in the description below and check it out, see what you think. But we're talking about integrity, and we're talking about also power in that as well. And it's just, power is something that has really been skewed in the past. I talk about this all the time, but the power that we're looking for is stepping into our own sovereignty and claiming our ability to create. that the life that we're experiencing, we're actually creating. And until we wake up to that and claim it, we're creating by default. And a lot of times we're handing over our creative power to something else. Just because we don't know what we don't know. We don't realize what we've got. We don't realize that we can use that creative energy for ourselves. Now, I think a lot more people are awake to that. Definitely the movement about manifesting really helped people get familiar with that and really start to step into it. But there's still more, right? So confront the beauty of getting and using power. Recognize what power is and how we use it. And in my personal opinion, how we use it is to truly shape our life the way we desire it to be. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of diligence and consistency on our part. It takes for us to be willing to look at things that perhaps we don't want to look at, or own things that perhaps we don't want to own. But as we do, we become a stronger creator, and our power is more radiant than it is directed at somebody else, right? It becomes a radiating energy that's magnetic. It becomes that light source, like a power source, and it allows us to help light up others. And that's the beauty of power. So we're being asked to look directly at this time. Physical action at this time: force yourself to do it with partners, your partners, and use other people's resources. This is so interesting because last couple of weeks we were told we cannot use the resources of others, that we can't get other people's answers to take the test. And this time we're being asked to now focus on the relationships, work together, and combine the resources. So I think that what's happening is sort of like the deep dive, figure it out for yourself period is sort of over. And now it's like, okay, everybody put what you have out on the table. What do we got here? And how can we use this together? So again, sort of learning how to take all that personal individual work and now come together and use it to benefit one another is the new way forward with this energy. And I'm not sure what this is going to look like yet. I don't know, there's so many ways that we can do this for one another. So it's really about understanding where you can pool resources together. And this can be physical resources, it can be emotional, mental, spiritual. You'll know it. You'll feel that, but you'll feel like it's time to do this. And many times when we get these messages, if you're the one listening, you're sort of the instigator. You're the one who's going to be the spark that starts it in many cases. So this is that point in which we need to just listen to our heart. What resources do you want to pool together? What do you need more of right now? What do you have more of that you want to supply to people? It reminds me of that old children's story, the stone soup story, right? Where there was this whole village and there was I think a food shortage or something in the village. And everyone was being sort of, tight-fisted with the resources that they had just because they didn't feel like they had enough. And then you had that wandering soldier come through the village and he's like, he gets a big pot and he puts some rocks and water in it and he's stirring it. Everyone's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making stone soup. And he's like, what would be really good with this? Potatoes. And the neighbor's like, well, I have a couple extra potatoes, and he'd pop it in the pot. And then, it kept going where it's like this neighbor had carrots and that neighbor had a side of beef. And before you knew it, there's an entire giant stew that everybody gets to share because they pooled their resources. And it wasn't about one person having to provide it all, but rather when we come together, each of us providing a little bit creates a lot. And so that's what they keep showing me. And that's kind of the energy that we're being asked to work with. In this metaphor, you're the soldier who comes up with the plan and puts it together. So just take that and let it run with you, because it wants to over this next week. It wants to inspire you to move into action and create a situation similar to that, but with whatever you feel called to do. Now let's go into outcomes for Mars in Libra in the 8th house of mystery and shared resources. Your spiritual outcome at this time is the drive for cooperation to perfect personal power. So we're working on perfecting our personal power by working together and recognizing what each person is bringing to the table. Kind of like what we just spoke about. Each person has something to bring to the table. And by recognizing that, we are perfecting personal power. Sounds exciting. Mental outcome, the confronting of decisions about the mysteries of life. That's really interesting too. So again, we're being asked to look head on, or we will be looking head on at things. Something will either we will confront or it will confront us. I really get the energy is asking us to shift and open up some more. So decision is such a powerful mental tool we have. It is what my team calls 0-point energy creator. When you recognize your internal power and you make a decision, you make it so. That becomes the option that moves forward. And we need that. We need to make we need decisions. Decisions help us create. But we have to remember creations are not set, meaning like nothing that's created is intended to last forever. In my own quantum healing hypnosis session, I was taken to the place I go to between lives. And it was so fascinating because where I went, it was just sort of like this energy being who is like a muse. And my job was to work with these other energies, and we would build and create things, and then we would watch them. We would take them apart and watch them be destroyed. It was like a Zen garden. And there was no sadness. There was no pain or frustration that what we just created fell apart. It was all good. And it's because it's all part of a cycle. The rise and fall, the ebb and flow, the creation, destruction. It's all part of a cycle. Imagine if all that ever happened was create. We wouldn't have room for anything. Everything has to sort of have its moment and then its decline so that a new moment can occur. And they're telling us that our decisions right now are a type of creation. They are a type of creation. Some of the decisions that we made that worked in the past won't work now. They have to come apart so that we can see something new, so that we can get the next one. And that's where we're sort of having to look at is even the things I decided that worked for me at a certain point in time, does it work anymore? And I don't know about you, but sometimes I can be a little precious with the things I've created, or especially if you've worked on it for a long time. Oh man, when you've worked on something for a long time, when you've put your heart and soul into something and you can feel it's at its limit, it can be really humbling to let it go. The ego can want to hold on tight to that, and the letting it go can feel painful. But I want to share with you that on an energetic level, it's not. It's part of it. It's waiting to happen so that the next rising creation, the next decision, the next expansion can happen. And we're at that point. We're being asked to address that moment. Are you holding on too tightly to something? Do you need it to happen a certain way? Are you becoming rigid or inflexible because you made a decision and you feel like I have to stick by that? Can you see that maybe something more is going to come through if you let go of holding that so tightly? That's the moment. That's sort of a moment we're at. I don't know much more that can come after that, only to let you know that when something breaks apart, it's part of a cycle in which the next thing comes through. And it's always built on the foundation of what just happened, right? So it's not like we don't really lose anything the way that our ego thinks we are, right? The ego has this sort of fatalistic energy because the ego's temporary and it knows it. Even if our consciousness doesn't know it, our ego knows it's temporary. It's only here for third density. That's what it's here for. It's got a purpose, a very powerful purpose, but it's here for that, and it doesn't go beyond that. So it understands its finiteness. And because it understands its finiteness, it sort of puts everything into that finite box. Like, this is it. This is done. You can't take this. If you take it, it's gone forever. If the ego could only understand, it's not. It's not gone forever. It can't be. It's actually a stepping stone for the next thing that comes. And so that's a big sort of existential moment that we're being asked to confront right now too. Physical outcome at this time: action resulting from the fairness shown by a major change. So whatever this thing that is coming out of this mystery, whatever comes next here, it has a more balanced, harmonious energy to it, which makes sense. And it makes me think about just the cyclical change of energy that's approaching, the ascension point, the fully moving into 4D and higher energy. It is going to be a fairer energy. It is going to be more balanced, because the lessons of power and ego and choice and individuality that we went through in the third density are done when we get to the fourth density. Then it becomes the lessons of love and everything that entails. It's a completely different kind of energy. And so therefore, there is a major change happening, and the benefit, we are only going up. And that's the thing that my team says to me all the time. It's like, no matter what it looks like, no matter how the world looks like hell in a handbasket at the moment, the only place to go is up. And so even though it can feel like a descension, it's actually an ascension. And I think that some of us have been here through other periods of time where ascensions were happening, where it was happening en masse. Now, ascension can happen individually for people at any time, so a person can move through ascension individually, but this is an en masse ascension, and there have been other points in time where en masse ascension was happening. And so it would be interesting if you tapped into your heart, if you felt like maybe you've been through something similar, to feel, what did it feel like before we got it? Did it feel like chaos? I think it might have, because it's the crumbling, the falling apart of something before the new thing can come into place. And so with that, I hope that this whole session has given you something to really ponder, because it's got a movement with confronting. So again, it's the facing of something where before we were sort of internalized, now we're looking directly at it, or being asked to stare it right in the eyes, whatever this thing is. And then we're going to be taking action around it. And the action is related to others, like working together through it. So as we move forward in time, we know for the next week that our goal is to start to energize coming together, working together, pooling resources, and confronting the fact that perhaps you're trying to hold on to something that's going to change. It has to change, and it's for the better. Something much better comes up behind it. So notice if you're still holding on or believing like it can't shift because my world falls apart. No, that's just a thought that is probably held by the ego, and we can let it go now. And with that, I'm sending you so much love. Mwah. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.